The 2023-2024 Football League season hasn't even fully finished yet, but that hasn't stopped the bookmakers getting in their early 2024-2025 EFL Championship predictions, and today we're going to take a look at them. Hello guys, welcome back to yet another video. As I say, we're taking a quick little look at the bookmakers predictions. First things first, this isn't my predictions, so don't get angry if you're not happy with where your team is. The second thing is, yes, it's early predictions, so do take them with a pinch of salt. We don't know which 24 teams will be confirmed to be in the division yet, so we've only got 18 teams in front of us today. And the third thing is, yes, things will change through the summer. That's why it's interesting to compare it from now until the start of next season, because obviously there's going to be transfers, there's going to be managers going in and going out. There could also be some other things popping up like points deductions, transfer embargoes maybe. So like I say, today we're taking an early look. We will revisit this video in a few weeks time when we know which 24 teams are confirmed to be in the Championship next year. Just before we get into the bookies predictions then guys, if you're feeling brave, share your predictions down below. As I say, there's only 18 teams involved in today's video. If you want to have a go at predicting them, get down in the comments. Make sure to drop a like on this video. We'll go for 1,000 likes. It's free to do. If you're sat there and you haven't hit the thumbs up button, make sure to do it. It's free to do, and it is also free to subscribe, and it would be amazing if we can hit 65,000 subscribers in the next week. Like and subscribe, and let's get into today's video. So then, as you can see, we are doing this on a tier list today, as we have done with previous videos before. I'm just going to put them in order of which the bookmakers' predictions are, and then you can obviously see it for yourself. It'll just make things a bit easier here. We've only got 18 teams involved, so the way I've split it is the top 6 at the moment, 7th to 11th, 12th to 15th, and the current bottom 3, but I'm sure that will change through the season. Let's start down at the bottom then and work our way up. And currently the bookmakers' least favourites to do anything next season, or the favourites to be relegated, are Plymouth Argyle. Plymouth Argyle, of course, just about stayed up at the end of last season, winning on the final day at home to Hull City, so congratulations to them on securing their Championship place for another year. But the bookmakers don't fancy them to do it again next year, or at least at the moment they don't. Their opinion might change, and it does feel like there's going to be a big summer at home park. Of course, there's the managerial position which will need to be addressed. There's going to be a big recruitment drive surely, because what's going to happen with Morgan Whittaker, that's another big thing. And the third thing is, can they go into next season and improve the away form? Because for me, at home park, I thought they were brilliant. They were actually a top half team based on home form, but when you look at how many points they picked up away from home, 70% of their points were at home. So that is a big thing they need to address going into next season. Right now, Plymouth Argyle are the bookies' favourites to be relegated. That might change once we've seen who's getting promoted from the League One playoffs, as the winner of that is usually the favourites to be bottom of the division, so Plymouth might be bumped up one place. But right now, the bookmakers have them last. Plymouth fans, share your thoughts. This isn't my prediction, it's the bookmakers' prediction, and I'd be happy to see you stay in the Championship again. I thought you did a really good job last season. On to the team just above Plymouth, and this is quite interesting. I'm not sure I agree with this. The bookmakers have Preston, and maybe that's because they're not quite sure what's going to play out over the summer at Deepdale. Now, Ryan Lowe, the Preston manager, is one of the longest serving managers in the Championship, but there is quite a few disgruntled Preston fans with him. They're not too pleased with how they play, their performances, and how they ended the season last year, because they were 24th. They were bottom of the form table over the last 8 games of the season. They really fizzled out. So yes, it does feel like right now there is going to be some big rebuilding work at Preston North End this summer, but for me to drop them down to second bottom right now I think is quite harsh from the bookmakers, when you think Preston did finish 10th last season. So the bookmakers, I think personally, are being a bit mean on Preston, but I'll leave that to the Preston fans to share their thoughts down in the comments. The final team right now in the bookmakers' bottom 3, to my surprise as well, is Cardiff City. Now, Cardiff City were also in the top half last season, just like Preston. Cardiff went on to finish 12th. Now, I will be first to put my hands up and say I got Cardiff wrong last season. I didn't think they'd do very well. There was a transfer embargo, but fair play to Errol Ballou, who got them into the top half for most of the season, and that is where they finished. And I think the bookmakers were quite harsh on them last year, but they're being harsh on them again this year, where I don't know if I can see this being the case. I mean, this would be a massive drop-off for Cardiff City. Once again, we'll just have to wait and see how the transfer activity plays out down in South Wales there. But once again, I'll put it to the Cardiff fans to share their thoughts that the bookmakers are not too keen on you. Moving up the bookmakers' predictions, next up in 15th place, we come on to Blackburn Rovers. This is an interesting one because Blackburn for quite a few seasons have been competing to make the playoffs. And then it did seem as if they weren't going to be putting so much money into the club. I think they even came out and said that. And then we saw a regression on the pitch. Quite a few managerial changes over the last couple of seasons as well. And they just about survived last season. And I think John Eustace does deserve credit for that massive last day win away at Leicester City, because if they would have lost that, they would have gone down. The thing is here for Blackburn Rovers is there going to be some big rebuilding work over the summer. It's very hard right now to see them holding on to the likes of Sammy Smodics, who's been fantastic. I mean, he did set the championship on fire last season with his goals, but for a team to finish in 19th place and hold on to the top goal scorer, it's a tall ask there for Blackburn Rovers. I do think though, with John Eustace, they're in a safe pair of hands. They need to make sure they don't do what Birmingham did and get rid of him just because they think they could do better without him. That obviously went on to massively backfire in Birmingham City's face. So I think Blackburn are in a safe pair of hands right now, but like the bookies, I think maybe it's difficult to see them holding on to Smodics and setting the world on fire right now, but we will see. Just above Blackburn then, and the bookies have gone with Millwall in around 14th place right now. As I say, it's 14th out of 18, so do take that into consideration. Millwall, just like Blackburn last season, had a season of regression or transition, if you want to call it that. But let's be honest, when it came to the end of the season, they got things spot on. They brought in Neil Harris and they were the best form team over the last 8 games. So, you know, they picked up the most points over the last 8 games, more than the likes of Leicester, Ipswich and Leeds. So fair play to Millwall. If they can take that form into the start of next season with quite a few decent additions to that team as well, there's no reason to say Millwall can't push up the table. They ended up finishing 13th last year, which maybe did mask last season to be a better season than what it was for most of it. So let's see. Maybe there is room to be optimistic at the Den going into next year. Above Millwall, and the bookies have gone for Bristol City. Maybe a little bit harsh here because Bristol City went on to finish 11th last year and I really liked them. I just think the problem was consistency. Liam Manning got this team playing some good football, and as we said quite a lot last season, against a lot of the top teams. I really enjoyed their FA Cup run. I really enjoyed watching them play against the likes of Leicester City at home, Southampton at home. They picked up some really good results against the top teams. When I look at the teams involved in today's video, Bristol City for me are one of the teams where I think there isn't a massive rebuild job needed. I think a couple of decent additions, stick with the right manager, and maybe this team might just have enough to crack the top 8 or top 6 next season. So for me, I think there's reasons to be optimistic for Bristol City. For the bookmakers, not so much. Just above Bristol City then, and we come on to Swansea City. Yes, once again, Swansea's badge is black and it's a black background, so you're just going to have to believe me, it is there. Swansea City last season with Luke Williams, it wasn't the best season. They went on to finish 14th. They did change the manager through the season, of course. They were 5th in the form table over the last 6 games though, so that is something to be encouraged by. But I think one of the big things coming into the new season now for Swansea has got to be to go out and get a goal scorer, because obviously they lost Joel Perreault. They still have decent players in the likes of Jamal Lowe and Jerry Yates, but no player managed to get 10 goals for Swansea last season. All of their goal scorers last season got below 10 goals. They were in single digits. So I think more attacking quality definitely needed at Swansea for them to be able to use last season as a platform to go on and improve this season. On to the next team then, and I like the look of this one. Sheffield Wednesday at the moment are being backed to finish in the top half, and I don't see why not. The first thing I need to say is how brilliant is it going to be to see the Steel City derby in the Championship again. As much as both Sheffield clubs hate each other, I as an outsider can happily say I like both of them actually. They're both big historic clubs, and I'm sure it's going to be fierce when these two fight off against each other. Let's talk about Sheffield Wednesday first. What an ending to last season. I did back them to stay up all the way through the season, and they did. And the man you've got to put that down to is Danny Röhl. What an unbelievable job he did. The big thing for Sheffield Wednesday now coming into this season has got to be, can they hold on to him? Because his unbelievable work last season won't go unnoticed. And even just 1 week after the season's finished, the likes of Hull City are sniffing around him. Now, I personally think he should stay at Sheffield Wednesday, but what does my opinion matter? It's really down to Danny Röhl's opinion. I think the big thing here for Sheffield Wednesday is they're a big club. They've got a great manager right now. They've got some good players. And with the right transfer activity, they definitely can push on. The big thing here is Chansiri. Now, if I'm a Sheffield Wednesday fan, I'm screaming at the people at the top, back this manager. He can take us places, because right now, I genuinely think he could. Right now, I've got optimism for Sheffield Wednesday going into next season. Let's just see how the summer plays out. Sheffield Wednesday fans, share your thoughts. The next team are Stoke City. It's always difficult with Stoke City, isn't it? Just put them somewhere in the middle and you might be right. Last season, Stoke City went on to finish 17th, and they were 5th in the form table over the last 10 games. So once again, if you try and use that as a platform and something to encourage you going into the next season, maybe with Schumacher, Stoke City can improve going into next season. They can put last season down as a season of transition, make a few decent additions to the team going into August, and I don't see why Stoke City can't improve, but I just feel like, as someone who's watched the Championship for so many years now, Stoke, you just expect them to land in the middle. Stoke fans, share your thoughts. Just above Stoke City then, and we come on to Queen's Park Rangers. The bookmakers have them to finish in the top 7 or 8 here, which is really interesting. Let's be honest, Martí Cifuentes deserves lots of credit. What an unbelievable end to last season. They were 2nd in the form table over the last 8 games. And just think, Cifuentes wasn't even using lots of players that he probably would have wanted at QPR. So that's why I think this summer could be really crucial to seeing QPR pushing back in the right direction. In my opinion, right now, QPR have got lots of great players. But just think, if Cifuentes was to sprinkle a little bit of his gold dust over this team, maybe, just maybe, we could see them pushing at the top 6 next season. Who knows? But let's be honest, their form towards the end of the season was incredible, so there's definitely room for optimism. Just above QPR, the bookmakers have gone for Hull City. This is an interesting one, maybe one of the more difficult ones to put your finger on right now. The big elephant in the room is Rosenior. So Hull City fans, do share your thoughts down below. My thoughts when Rosenior was dismissed was shock. I thought he was very good last season, probably in my top 5 Championship managers. What you've got to say is this is a gamble. I like the ambition from the higher-ups at Hull City, but this could backfire. We've seen things like this before in the Championship. John Eustace is an example at Birmingham City, but there's nothing to say it can't go the other way, and Hull City might make the top 6 with the right manager next season. But right now, it's really difficult to put your finger on them. But what you have got to say, even without Rosenior, is they are a club going in the right direction. So for me, they're definitely going to be in the top half, and for the bookmakers, they're about 7th or 8th right now. Just above Hull City then, and we come on to Derby County. This is an interesting one. The bookmakers have them joint 7th right now, which is really interesting when you think they've just come up from League One. But they are a big club. They're not an ordinary League One club. You know, they've been in the Championship and in the Premier League quite a lot over the last 20, 30 years. With Paul Warne at the helm, Derby County seem to be a pretty steady team. It'll be interesting to see what additions they can make to their team going into next season. And I'm not massively against them being said to be a top half team next season. One thing, as we said, we have to keep factoring in is we've still got 2 more teams to be relegated from the Premier League. There's still going to be the teams that don't win the Championship playoffs that are going to fall back into the Championship. So it's going to be a very competitive division, but with a strong summer, I don't see why Derby County can't be in the top half next year. Another interesting one here. Portsmouth, the other team to have come up from League One, right now are tipped for a top 6 finish. Now, as I say, take this with a pinch of salt, because we've still got 2 more teams to come down from the Premier League, and the teams that are not going to win the Championship playoffs are going to come back into the Championship. But right now, out of the 18 teams confirmed to be in the Championship next year, Portsmouth are 6th, which is really fascinating. Let's address it though. How good were they last season? They were brilliant in League One. Both Portsmouth and Derby went on to get loads of points, and I am excited to see them both back in the Championship. It's been a long time coming. Portsmouth have been away from the top two divisions for 12 years now, so the landscape may have changed a bit, but they're a good team, and with a good manager like John Massinio, I don't see why Portsmouth can't be competing in the top half as well. Pompey fans, share your thoughts. It's great to have you back in the Championship. Next up then, just above Portsmouth, the bookmakers have gone with Sunderland. Now this would be a big jump from Sunderland, just like last season being a big jump down the table. This would obviously be a massive improvement. Sunderland went on to finish in 16th place last season, and maybe you can say after Mick Beale's unsuccessful spell in charge that the playoffs were not massively achievable, and with Mike Dodds they were kind of on autopilot until the end of the season, and I think that's a fair assessment. You can write last season off as a bit of a write-off, a bit of a transitional one, and if they can get things right in the summer, look at the size of club here. They should definitely be pushing towards Premier League football. That's not obviously just how it works. You need to make sure you're getting things right on the pitch, because just because you're a big club doesn't mean you'll get promoted. But yeah, maybe there is cause to be optimistic for Sunderland going into next season. But like I say, right now it's just difficult to see because they haven't done any of their transfers so far. But the bookmakers do think there'll be a massive improvement from the Black Cats. Sunderland fans, share your thoughts. Just above Sunderland, the bookies have gone for Watford. Now this is an interesting one. Maybe another team that were kind of on autopilot towards the end, but their form was better than Sunderland's, to be honest, in the final run-in. Lots of draws in there. They picked up the second most draws in the Championship last year with 17 draws, so they weren't even losing that many. They did have a decent run under Tom Cleverley where they didn't lose many, but it was mainly draws, to be fair. So it's going to be a big summer. Watford do need to make some changes. I do think they need some goal scorers in that team, to be honest, if they're going to be starting to push back up the table. Obviously parachute payments are now running out at Vicarage Road, so they need to get things right, otherwise they could become stuck in the Championship. So yes, once again, I'll repeat what I've said, a big summer ahead for Watford, but I don't see why without the right recruitment they can't be pushing towards a top 6 finish. The bookmakers have high hopes for Watford. After Watford, in the top 3 out of the 3 teams left, the bookies have gone for Coventry. Now, obviously, Coventry fans, as we keep saying, take this with a pinch of salt, because once the Championship playoffs and the Premier League season have ended, the teams that have missed out on winning the playoffs and the teams that have been relegated will probably go ahead of Coventry in the bookmakers list. But it is great to see Coventry City being tipped to be one of the strong teams in the Championship, and that's because we are. It's 3 seasons in a row now where Coventry City have finished in the top half. Yes, we didn't quite make the playoffs last season. We finished in 9th place. Maybe you can put that down to fatigue, injuries, and a very good FA Cup run. There will be once again some changes at Coventry City over the summer. I do expect to see the likes of Callum O'Hare going out now that his contract has come to an end. But one thing we do know is we're going to be getting Mason Clark from Peterborough, and I'm excited, to be honest. We've got an owner in Doug King who is going to back Mark Robbins, and I think next year, yeah, we can push for the top 6, and that's what the bookmakers are going for. Coventry fans, share your thoughts. The bookmakers have us 3rd favourites out of the 18 teams confirmed to be in the Championship. And then the last 2 teams who have actually been joint first here with the bookmakers, so you can put them in whatever order, are Middlesbrough and Sheffield United, who right now have the same odds to go on and get promoted with the bookies. We'll start with Middlesbrough quickly then. Obviously Michael Carrick's at the wheel. They, just like Coventry, didn't manage to retain a place in the playoffs. They finished 8th and were the best formed team over the last 10 games in the Championship, so a really strong finish there. They've got good players in that team, especially going forwards in the likes of Latte Lath. I'm sure there will be some good strong additions to this team, and Michael Carrick is a good young manager that I do really rate. I do think he's learning his trade in this division, and once again you'd expect them to be in and around that top 6, so that's where the bookies have them. And then top of the pile are Sheffield United. I'm interested to see what the Sheffield United fans have to say about this. Right now they are joint favourites with Middlesbrough to be promoted, but once again, of course, we will see what happens when the other teams join the Championship. I would expect to see the likes of Burnley or Leeds United being favourites next year as well, if they are not in the Premier League. I do think it's going to be different this time round for Sheffield United in the Championship. Not that I don't think they're going to get promoted. I do think they've got a very good chance. They'll have parachute payments, and they've already got quite a few good players proven in the Championship Championship in the likes of Brereton Diaz and Gustavo Hamer if they are to stay. I'm very intrigued to see what players they bring in. I think it'd be very wise of Sheffield United to try and pick off some of the best Championship players from last season, because obviously they'll make themselves stronger but the other teams weaker. We do also need to factor in a 2-point deduction for Sheffield United, which could maybe cost them 1 place in the division, but ultimately, the way I look at it, 2 points isn't massive. It could make a difference, but if they win their first game in the season, then they're already into positive points again. So yes, if I had to give my opinion, along with the bookmakers, I do think Sheffield United should be somewhere at the top end of this list. So then guys, there you go. That is the bookmakers' very, very early 2024-2025 Championship predictions. As I say, there's only 18 teams confirmed to be in the division. We will wait and see what happens with the rest of the teams to be confirmed. I think it's going to be a really good League One playoff final between Bolton and Oxford. We will also be covering the Championship playoffs, and we might find that this weekend Burnley and Luton could be relegated. So once again, I do think it's going to be a very strong division next year. Share your thoughts down below. If you've enjoyed this video, do make sure to drop a like, make sure to subscribe. We've got loads of content coming on the channel, so make sure to look out for all of that. I will see you guys in the next video. Take care, peace out.